All right, let's play detective for a minute. We're on a case that honestly affects every single one of us, the case of the vanishing money. We're going to follow the clues and crack the code on this super sneaky culprit called inflation. So let's dive in.
Okay, let's start with a feeling I'm pretty sure you've had. Ever look at your bank account or just what's in your wallet and think, wait a minute, this doesn't go nearly as far as it used to? It's almost like your money's pulling a vanishing act on you. So where on earth is it going?
Well, this mystery culprit, it actually has a name, inflation. And it's not so much a magic trick as it is, well, a financial illusion. It's not pulling a rabbit out of a hat, it's making the value of your money shrink right before your eyes. And this brings us to a really important idea, purchasing power. That's just a fancy way of saying how much stuff your money can actually buy.
So to really get how this works in the real world, we've got to look for some clues, some actual evidence. And you know what? Our first clue is probably hiding right there in the candy aisle.
Just think about this for a second. Your favorite chocolate bar. Maybe a few years ago it was, I don't know, $1. But today, that exact same chocolate bar is $1.50. The chocolate didn't get bigger or better, right? Nope. What changed was the power of your dollar. It got weaker. And that right there is inflation in action. It's that little surprise that just makes everyday things cost more.
I love this way of putting it. It really nails the feeling, doesn't it? Your dollar is still a dollar bill, but it's like it's gotten skinnier, weaker. It's been on a diet, and now it just can't lift as much. It can't buy as much as it used to. It's a super simple but really powerful way to picture what's happening to your purchasing power.
Okay, so we've got a handle on what inflation does. But the big question is, why? Why does it even happen? Well, our investigation is about to get a little deeper. We're going to look at the culprit's methods. Turns out, inflation kind of comes in 3 main flavors, and each one has its own special recipe for making prices go up.
So let's break these down, one by one. First up, you've got demand pull. Imagine that one toy that everybody has to have for the holidays. If there aren't enough to go around, stores can jack up the price. That's too much money chasing too few goods. Simple as that. Then there's cost push. This is when it just gets more expensive to make the toy in the first place. Maybe the price of plastic skyrockets. The factory has to pay more, so guess what? They pass that extra cost on to you. And finally, we have built-in inflation. Now this one's a sneaky cycle. The toy makers see that their own groceries, their chocolate bars, are getting more expensive, so they ask for a raise. To pay for those raises, the factory has to raise the price of the toys again, and on it goes. It's wild because the expectation of more inflation can actually create it.
Now here's where things get really interesting. Inflation isn't a one-size-fits-all problem. It doesn't hit everybody in the same way. Nope. Depending on where your money is, it can either be this total villain or, believe it or not, something else entirely. Let's take a look.
This is where we see the 2 faces of inflation. Okay, so if you're a saver, you've got cash just sitting in a bank account, inflation is basically a sneaky cookie thief. You think you have a full jar, but every day inflation is just sneaking in and nibbling away at the value. Your cash loses its crunch. But if you're an investor, well, the story can be totally different. For you, inflation might just be a sneaky ally. How? Well, because the things you own, your assets like stocks or real estate, their value could actually go up.
And yeah, that's the potential upside right there. Think about it. As the value of plain old cash starts to drop, what do people do? They start looking for other places to put their money, right? Somewhere it'll be safe. This can drive up demand for assets, pushing their prices higher, and all of a sudden, the stuff you own, your investments, they become the new hotcakes in town. They get more valuable because cash is getting less valuable. Kind of wild.
All right, we've come a long way in our investigation. We've followed the clues, we've figured out the culprit's methods, and we've seen the different ways it operates. So now it's time to wrap up the case file and figure out what this all means for guarding our own cookie jars.
So, let's do a quick recap. What did we learn? First, inflation is just a fancy word for a decrease in your money's buying power. That's it. We also found out it can happen for a few reasons: super high demand, rising costs to make things, or these tricky wage cycles. And maybe most importantly, we uncovered its 2 different personalities. It's a cookie thief for your cash savings, but it can be a sneaky ally if you own assets.
And all of this leaves us with one last, really big question. And this one is for you.
Now that you've got the lowdown on how this whole thing works, take a second to think about your own situation. Is that cookie thief just getting started on your savings? Or have you already found a sneaky ally to have on your side? That's the real mystery you've got to solve. Thanks for cracking the case with me.